Hey y'all, it's Christy with Christy's Custom Creations, and I did a glitter stapler with UV resin before, so now I wanted to do a stapler using epoxy and actually putting it on a cup turner. So I figured while I was doing that, I would go ahead and knock a pin and a staple remover out while I was at it to just show y'all how this foil can be used on pretty much anything. So I've got the Amazon's basic stapler, and I bought a 3-pack of staplers, and they actually came with staple removers as well. So I was like, well, heck, let's go ahead and put the foil on the staple remover too. So I like to take the staplers apart. I find it easiest if I go to the back and I kind of twist it a little bit and I pop the back off. And then if you just kind of finagle the front here, it will pop off as well. So you've got the body of the stapler and this screw. You want to just put those in a safe place. And then this top portion here, that is what we are going to put the foil on. So I've got that, the staple remover, and I'm just going to set those off to the side because we are going to go ahead and get started on getting the pen ready as well. So this is a Papermate Inkjoy pen. I've got lots of tutorials out there on how to decorate, glitter, wood grain these pens here. So if you need to, you can check them out. I just take all the guts out. I put them in a safe place. I did not leave them there because I have a kitten and she gets into everything. So I stuck them in a bag where I keep all my pen guts at. And then I've got these little clips, and I bought these clips on Amazon, and you just snip the clip right off the pen. And so it leaves it nice and flush. And then I also grabbed like a little flat razor, and it's got a little bitty bump, a couple little bitty bumps on there. I just kind of shaved those off with my flat razor. And so these 3 items are what we are going to decorate. So we are going to go ahead and throw down some parchment paper. The only reason I'm throwing down parchment paper is because I am going to be working with a little bit of UV resin. I'm going to do UV resin for the staple remover just because I don't have a spinner attachment for that, and it's just easier to do that. And it helps keep any excess glitter off of my projects here because I make a huge mess with glitter. So this is the foil adhesive from Artistic Painting Studios, and the foils that we are going to use are from Artistic Painting Studios. And I don't know if you saw my earlier video where I did leopard print on the steering wheel in my vehicle, but I used a regular paintbrush. So I was like, well, next time I want to try these foam paintbrushes because I was hoping I would get a little bit of a smoother brush on there, which I 100% did not. So I won't be using the foam brushes for projects like this anymore. I will go back to a paintbrush. The paintbrush just gives a much smoother application of the foil adhesive. One thing that you can do, and I was kind of in a hurry to make these so I didn't, but one thing you can do is you can actually water down your foil adhesive just a little bit, like you kind of do the tack it whenever you're applying glitter to a cup with the tack it method. You can water it down just slightly, and it actually will go on a lot smoother. I did not do that. I really didn't have time, so I put it straight on there with this foam brush, initially with the foam brush. After it dried, I actually did go back and I did a second coat of the foil adhesive with a regular paintbrush, like a soft bristled brush paintbrush, and I got a pretty smooth application from there. And I did not paint these pens or anything. The pen's black. It really didn't need to be painted. I just applied the foil adhesive right on it, and you could not tell a difference at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply that to the staple remover here as well. You just, like I was saying, you want to really try to get it as smooth as possible, because it will, if you don't get it nice and smooth, you will have a little bit of streaking. But the streaking actually looks pretty cool with the foil, but you want to keep it all kind of brushed in the same direction so it doesn't just look crazy. So I'm just going to do this other side here. And then you'll know that your foil adhesive is dry when it dries completely clear. Now it's going to be super, super sticky when it's dry, but it will be clear. And like I said, that's how you know it's dry. But it remains sticky so that the foil actually adheres to it and comes off of like the kind of like a cellophane I guess, carrier that it's on. So this is where I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to go ahead and just throw a second coat of that foil adhesive on there, because I did not like how streaky it was from the foam brush. And as you can tell, it's going on a lot smoother with this paintbrush here. So 100% recommend putting it on with a paintbrush over a foam brush. So I'm just going to make sure I fill in any little spots that wanted to kind of streak a little bit, and just get it on there real good. The smoother you get it on there, the better, because like I said, it will help minimize those streaks. You don't want big globs or anything like that. So now I'm going to put the foil adhesive on this pen here. And if you've seen my other video for the stapler that I did with the UV resin, I really like UV resin, but in my personal opinion, nothing gives a shine like epoxy does. So yes, I like UV resin. It's great if you're in a hurry and you need to get some things done quickly, but I really prefer epoxy. And that's why I wanted to do a video using epoxy on these items here. UV, people have a really hard time getting it to dry, not sticky. Now, but if you put it under your lamp enough, it's not going to be sticky. It will cure all the way. You can stick it out in the sun, and that does wonders. That helps a ton as well. I just love the shine and the look and the smoothness of epoxy. So that's why I wanted to try this out. And I actually got, just for this video, I went on Etsy and I found a turner attachment to attach the stapler to my turner so that I could put it on with epoxy. So here is the foil. Keep it away from your project after you put the stuff on it, because it is super, super sticky. That foil adhesive is extremely sticky. And you see I had to push my stapler away from it because I kind of got it stuck to it a little bit. So I'm just going to cut a size that is appropriate for the project that I'm working on here. And I'm going to lay it on there. Like I said, this stuff is extremely sticky. The foil adhesive is once you put it on. So as soon as you make contact, it is going to start pulling the foil away from the cellophane backing that it's on. And I'm just going to kind of work my way around the stapler. This thing doesn't have to be perfect. The cool thing about the foils is even if you give it, like, if you have a wrinkle in it, it almost gives it like a distressed look, which I think is really cool. But I just pulled on it and stretched it, and it doesn't really stretch well, but I kind of pulled on it and manipulated it so that it laid as flat as it possibly could. And then I've got my little squeegee tool here, and I love this thing because it's got felt over the end of it. In all my videos, I use this thing. I use it for every time I apply vinyl, and I have found that it works awesome for applying these foils because it's got the felt tip on it, and it just rubs it on there. So as the foil transfers onto the item that you're putting it on, it releases from the cellophane, and it just kind of comes off because it releases. And you'll see in this video how it does that, and it will leave the clear cellophane right there left over. So you just push on it, work on it, and it will release. It's really cool stuff. All right, so it looks like I've got it on there pretty good, but as you can see right there on the front, I had a little spot that didn't take. So I just stuck a little bit of the foil back on it, rubbed on it real good, and it covered that spot. So if you have any little spots that it just, for some reason, you didn't get it rubbed on good enough or whatever, you can just stick your foil back on there and it will cover it right up. And I am obsessed with how this thing turned out. I love it. It's so pretty. And I know I mentioned this earlier, but the foils I got from the Artistic Painting Studio, and I will actually have that linked down in the description box below. So I'm going to do the exact same thing here that I did earlier. I cut a piece that was appropriate for the project I'm working on, and I'm just gonna rub it on there. So I went ahead and put the back on because both sides are super sticky. So put it on there so that I wasn't trying to avoid touching the sticky area. And then I'm just gonna go back in with my squeegee and just mash it down real good. And that's going to make that foil release, and it will transfer that pattern onto the staple remover here. I gotta say, I absolutely love this pattern. It's so pretty. So now for the pin, I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm just gonna cut a size appropriate strip here, and I'm gonna trim the top off. And once I do that, I'm just gonna wrap it. Now, I stuck it literally right in the middle of this foil because I didn't want to fold the end over and have like a super straight line. So I folded it to where they kind of just met each other. I hope that makes sense. I folded it to where they met each other, and then I really just worked on it and got in the groove there. And on this pin, I really couldn't tell where the foil started and where it ended, like basically where the seam was. I couldn't see the seam at all, which was pretty cool. And I had seen in Artistic Painting Studios YouTube videos, I'd seen where she'd done that on one of her projects. And so I was like, well, let me try it that way. And it was perfect because I couldn't even see the seam on this pen. But I'm going to just do the exact same thing. I'm sorry, y'all. I know this is repetitive. I was planning to only do the stapler and the pin, but then I saw the staple remover in there and I was like, well, I got to do that too. Got to have a whole matching set. So look how pretty that is. And I'm just taking a little bit of that foil and getting it on the very tip. And this foil is so pretty. It's got like holographic flowers and everything on it. It just turned out so cool. And after you apply this foil, you literally don't have to do anything to it. You don't have to spray seal it. You don't have to put the top coat on it. You just go straight to epoxy. You do want something over it though, like epoxy or something, because you want to protect it. You don't want to scratch it off. So I did mention for this one here, for this staple remover, I was in a hurry. I did not want to try to figure out a way to attach it to my turner. So I just did this one really super quick with UV resin. And I did one side and I stuck it underneath my UV lamp here and did it just long enough to where it was good and hard, wasn't going to go anywhere. And I ran it for about a minute or so, and then I brought it back out, I flipped it over, and I did the other side. Now keep in mind, UV resin takes multiple turns underneath the UV light in order to fully cure. I just wanted it on there good enough to where it wasn't going anywhere, and then I could start running cycles underneath the UV lamp so that it could really cook under there and cure that UV resin. After I finish this portion of the video with the staple remover, the rest of it will be done with epoxy, a 2-part epoxy. So, and then I will put them on the turner. All right, so here I mixed up about 15 milliliters of ALE epoxy. It's a little extra epoxy, and I mixed up way more than I needed, but I was working on some other pens for a friend of mine who had ordered some, and you'll see the pens in a little bit spinning on the spinner later on in the video. But I mixed up some extra because those pens needed a final coat. So this is the turner attachment, and I bought it on Etsy. It's for the Amazon staplers, and it just slips right on there. It's actually pretty cool. It's pretty secure. And like I said, I got it on Etsy. I will link that down in the description box below so that it's easier to find. And I did put an actual glove on this time rather than a finger caught because I did not want to risk getting it all over my hand. I tend to get a little bit messy sometimes when I'm messing with epoxy, so make sure you use your protection, your PPE, personal protection equipment, to protect yourself, and you should always wear a mask, gloves, all that stuff to protect yourself from epoxy, because it is not considered non-toxic until it is fully cured after 72 hours. So I'm just getting a really good coat of that ALE epoxy on here, and I'm going to put it over here on my pin turner, which is off camera, and then I'm going to move on to this stapler. And I've got to say, I was super impressed with the stapler attachment. I did kind of, if I was pushing on the far end of it, it did kind of seem like it wanted to wiggle loose just a little bit, but it was very secure. I needed a light touch whenever I was applying the epoxy, and it stayed on there. I mean, it spun great. I didn't have to worry about it falling off while it was spinning or anything like that. So I was very impressed with it. And for the pin and the stapler, I only put one coat of epoxy on. The awesome thing about this foil is it lays so incredibly smooth that I just put the one coat on and that was good enough. So as you can see, I'm being very careful, and same thing with the pin and the staple remover. You want to be very careful as to where you put your epoxy or your UV resin, because you don't want to get it everywhere. You want to keep it nice and smooth, and you don't want it globbing up in any area. So I'm confident that I got good coverage on there. So I'm going to go ahead and put my stapler on my turner right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, and while it's spinning, I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit more just to make sure that I don't have anything kind of lumping or clumping up anywhere. So as you can see, I've got the pins in the back spinning. They were for a friend who had ordered some, and that's why I mixed up some of the extra epoxy, because they needed a final coat on them after I put the name and everything on them. And that's pretty much it. After your epoxy is dry, you're going to put your stapler and your pin back together. I've got some other videos showing how to put them together. Thought I recorded it, but could not find the recording of me putting them back together. So you'll have to check out one of my other videos. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And as always, I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Y'all take care. Bye.